Do what?
Zoom.
I'm a super
Do it.
cool guy.
Zoom across the table.
Zoom.
You're literally fast. Now zoom that way.
Zoom.
Now arms out. Do it. Yeah. Fast. Nice. You're super fast.
I'm fast.
Literally fast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective Podcast. My name is Karbon.
And I'm Emily.
And welcome to the show. What's up?
For some reason, I thought you were going to say welcome back, but you said what's up, and I was like, you were like, what? And I was like, welcome, same time, and I was like, we only do this every week. So, if you watched the last podcast, we just changed clothes. We switched outfits.
What are you talking about? This is a totally different outfit from our last podcast, and we totally did not just switch and record it on the same day.
This is a different day. We were having a conversation in the kitchen the other day because we're roommates.
And they were roommates.
And lovers.
No.
Rats. So we were having a conversation in the kitchen the other day, and you know when you wish you were recording a conversation, like midway through or at the end of a conversation, you're like, that was a really nice combo. I feel like I realized some things, learned some things, and we connected.
Yeah, or when I think it could be like a comedy skit.
Yeah, those are the two circumstances.
You know what I really wish, though?
What?
Sometimes I wish that I could record my thoughts. Because I'll do something really cool in my noggin. Yeah. And I was like, damn, yo, I should record that. Yeah. And then I was like, I wish I could have just been recording.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I actually do know what you mean. So for me, it's with school. I'm like, sometimes when I'm going on a walk and I'm in the middle of, like, I just walked away from writing an essay, I'll start thinking of sentences in my head, and then I go to sit down at the computer and they're gone.
Where'd they go?
Oh, I don't know. They got up and left.
Did they ever come back?
No, that's the issue. And that's why I wish you could just hit that record button. You're like, ooh, things are flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll like think of whole dance choreography in my head, and I'm like, I wish I had recorded that from my noggin.
Yeah. So, I think that's coming in the future. Wasn't that a Black Mirror episode?
It was a Black Mirror episode, but I don't want that actually to be the future.
Because it would have to be a microchip in your brain, and then the government or some huge corporation could watch your thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, like Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates watch.
Bill Gates watch.
Trust.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Bill Gates will watch.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Mark.
Hi, Bill. I feel like Bill's not the person who's going to do that. It's either Elon Musk,
Jeff Bezos,
or Mark Zuckerberg. I'm betting it right now.
Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg. I totally.
That's my predictions.
They look very like
it's frightening.
Dr. Evil looking.
Yes,
right?
Totally. Moving on. So what we're actually talking about today is, I'm sure you guys have all felt it because I've been feeling it for a number of years now, but this sort of like existentialism and feeling like you need to save the world and you're never doing enough, mainly because like the planet is dying and like all of the news around you just seems horrible. And like anytime you open up your phone, you just start like kind of panicking and freaking out. And then there's like these thoughts that go through your head that are like, I'm not doing enough. Like, what am I doing? What's like my value here? You know, what am I contributing?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have been feeling like this. Like literally, I say this to my doctor kind of like a while ago, I guess, like when I first was trying to get like medication for mental health. And when I told her that like a lot of my like fears stem from like the climate crisis and like other issues, she said that's actually very common amongst a lot of people our age.
Wow. So this happens a lot then.
Yeah.
Also, I'm so tired, by the way. We're recording this at like midnight. If we're acting a little bit loopy, that's probably why.
But that's okay, because I still have things to say. So that's kind of like the feeling I've been going through. And then the way that our conversation started is this past week I've been like feeling really down and not really feeling myself. Like I don't feel very motivated. There's a little bit of like imposter syndrome going on. And like, I don't know, just like generally feeling like I'm not doing enough. Like, what's the value of the things that I put out in the world? And then in the middle of me feeling that way, you've been editing this series for work, for the Artists for Social Change program. And it's the education modules part of it that the top 30 get to be part of, as well as like networking amongst each other and some nice events. Karbon has been editing the videos. So do you want to kind of jump in, talk about the videos?
In regards to like the modules,
yeah,
you and I are very like about creating change.
Yeah.
And supporting it wherever we can. So as artists and people who want to make change and want to be activists and spread a message, it can be pretty difficult to feel like you're doing enough.
Yeah.
Like for me, definitely I felt like what I'm doing is nice, but I can do more. Or I feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing this cause or issue justice. Yeah. Or giving it enough attention even. So I tend to feel guilty about what I am doing and at the level that I'm doing it. And I feel guilty in the sense that I should be doing more, or I feel like I should. As if no matter how much I do, I always feel like I should be doing more. So I've been running into issues with like imposter syndrome.
And burnout.
And feeling like you're not doing what you're supposed to or enough of it. So now getting into the modules, as I was editing them, it's all about artists and social change through art, whether it's in the environmental sector or poverty sector, or whatever it is that you really feel you have a cause for. You can, and this is what I learned, is that you can be an activist through art. Because as one single person, there's only so much you can do as a person, right? And it takes masses. It's not just you. So all the weight of that is not just on you. But as an artist, it's not your job necessarily to be the policymaker or be the politician that gives hope to a nation or something like that, or be the face of a movement. It's not necessarily your job to be that. As an artist, I do feel like it is our job and our responsibility to be well informed in the issues that we really care about. So that way we can use our talent, our skill, our art to now pass on the message in a way that is very easily digestible for the majority of people. So I guess in summary, what I'm saying is that as an artist, our job isn't necessarily to be the policymakers, but rather to understand the policies and inform through entertainment. Yeah.
And you don't even necessarily need to be the policymaker, but I think also at one point I felt like I needed to be the policymaker.
Me
but
too.
I think lately I feel like I need to be the activist directly advocating in all the time, like organizing, etc., to create policy change. Because I'm like, if there is no tangible policy change from my actions, like, am I doing enough? Am I doing anything? Am I even an activist? Like, what am I?
Right.
You know what I mean? Does my art mean anything? And it's like sort of these loops of like negative self-talk that I kind of like scroll through all the time.
Yeah. You know, sometimes I've felt like, you know, when I think about things like that, such as, am I even an activist? Like, what am I? I think about maybe a project that I worked on, an art project that does represent that cause. And then the next thought, which is taking a negative route, is, yeah, the art's nice, but you didn't perform an action, so it doesn't count. That's kind of along the roads of where my brain would go. Yeah. So it's kind of self-destructive to have a cause as an artist and portray that cause to the best of your artistic ability, and then also to go back and tell yourself that that's not enough and that it's maybe not even valid. Yeah. I definitely ran into that. And the modules themselves do talk about that a lot, which I found very, very helpful. Now, one module in particular stood out.
Who is the speaker?
The speaker is Jean-Baptiste. Jean-Baptiste. And he was essentially talking about sustainability and fashion. how they can collide, how they can be destructive, and also how they can actually be very harmonious.
Yeah.
So he talked about the, I guess, evil side of fashion, which is that it's one of the biggest pollutants in the world through fast fashion and more collections coming out every single year at a faster rate than the year before. And then he also talks about the beautiful side of it, about how one of his students, this is a case study, about how one of his students used fashion to create a 15-kilogram cape dress thing that went all the way down, fully covered in plastic, found from oceans and dumps and things like that, to make a statement of how this is affecting the ocean.
Yeah.
Through art, she was able to create a lot of awareness and attention, because they got the attention of really big art museums and galleries, and it traveled from France to the United States and other places as well, passing along the message wherever it went, right? So what I'm saying is that as an artist, she was able to create change, and she was able to create activism through spreading awareness about the cause that she was passionate about, which is pollution in our oceans in particular. And she was able to effectively do that through a form of entertainment, which is art and fashion. Yeah. So kind of back to my original point that I was stated before, is that art is enough as an activist.
Yeah.
You don't have to be running for whatever party to try to make change that way. It doesn't have to be there's not one form of activism, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Basically.
And the biggest part is politics is, what happens in politics is all about public opinion and the majority's opinion, because the people in office, well, usually it doesn't really feel like it, they are meant to represent you. And if the majority of people are putting pressure on this person, then policy change is going to be made. And shifting public opinion happens through art and media, and that's why things like representation are very important, right? Just showing and shaping people's values, that is a part of the puzzle. And I think one thing that really clicked for me when we were having this conversation was sort of thinking about the way that our generation, probably other generations as well, put so much pressure on our own backs to fix every single problem, to the point where either we're spending all of our time dedicated towards that, burning out, or we're sort of just crushed with anxiety. And cheers to the few people who are coping well and it's not impacting you. But for a lot of us, I think it's having some very detrimental impacts on our health. But the thing that I did realize was there's 7 billion people on this planet, and this change, or climate change, is something that's going to impact all of us. And it's not something that we're going to solve on our own. So there's so many different roles that need to be played in this revolution, in the climate revolution, and in everything else that needs to change, because looking at, similar to Artists for Social Change, it's based in the UN sustainability goals, where it's all of these things need to happen together in order for the world to move forward in a positive way. So with that being said, you don't have to play every single role. That's it's not feasible, and us trying to tell ourselves that it is feasible and it is what we're supposed to be doing is not healthy.
That kind of reminds me of that super cheesy, super sweet quote that Yusuf came up with, our roommate.
Yeah.
Where he said, he was talking about stress, and then the conclusion was, too much pressure will break you, not enough won't make you.
Yeah. That was so corny. It sounded out of his character to say something like that. It was what did you just say?
Yeah, but it was super corny, but it was also perfect.
Very true, yeah.
Because if we don't have enough pressure on ourselves, then we kind of sit around being potatoes, doing nothing. But if we have too much pressure, if you have to be this and this and this and this and that, and it's too much and it's overwhelming, then you end up just crumbling and not doing anything at all.
Yeah. And that's like another huge realization I've had this year is I am so much more productive in the time that I'm working so that I can work less hours and achieve more and have more time for myself when I like do my best to get rid of my stress and not feel stressed out, you know, which is so much easier said than done. This past week has been horrible for me. I keep telling myself, I'm like, you can just let go of the stress and it'll be fine. But when it's happening, it's just harder said than done, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really also key way to kind of take some pressure off is what you said of working kind of smarter. And when you're working, you really dedicate your time to it so that you can get the same amount done within a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, but with that being said, like in order to achieve that, you need to have more clarity in your mind.
Right.
Because when I'm stressed out and I'm working when I'm stressed out, I am constantly distracted. Like I'm finding myself looking at my phone more because I'm so stressed of the task in front of me that I just like my brain wants to distract me in every single way that it can. So coming in with clarity is sort of where that starts to get you to be more productive in my mind.
Yeah, you have to like at least realize it in order to take the first step. For sure. At the same time, it is like a domino effect too, because if you go in with a bit more clarity and then you work smarter and then you have more time for yourself, which means you get more clarity.
Yeah.
So it just keeps kind of snowballing.
Totally. Yeah. And that's why as an old woman now, I hate like messing up my schedule.
You're not even old.
I know, but that's the point though. Like I'm not old, but I act so old, especially after this pandemic. Oh my God, I feel so old.
No, it's true. We do act really old.
Our activity is going for a walk. Oh my God, Gladys, I haven't had my walk yet today.
Oh, better get to it. You betcha.
That's like the highlight of my day, going on our walk.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Is it? I don't know. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, yes, it is nice. So I think this has been like especially troubling me this week because I sort of last minute found this really cool course that was like special topics and social ventures or something like that, or social ventures and special topics. This has been like especially in my mind right now, this whole topic, because I just started a class called social ventures and special topics. And there is this like thought process, I think, in like the activism community where it's like, if your actions do not create policy change, you aren't an activist. And like social media campaigns and like art and whatever isn't really like activism. And that's kind of what my prof was saying in this class. And that's why like I started getting a bit more anxious about it too, is he was like, because the whole project in the class is to create like this program or whatever, like movement, I don't know, social movement to create change, like a policy change. And he like just flat out said that like social media based like campaigns or whatever like will be frowned upon. I do agree in that, but that is something in my mind, like that sort of negative self-talk that makes me feel like even with the argument that we like came to and that realization where it's like everyone has a role and they need to play their parts that are important, I feel like this constant narrative that sort of like what we do isn't as important does infiltrate my mind a lot, and it's like perpetuated a lot by people. Yeah,
I guess it's a little bit implied upon us as well. Why are Instagram ads discredited?
Not Instagram ads, just like, I don't know, like social media based campaigns and like sort of like text post graphics. Like it just like, it's, what is it even called? Like social media activism, or like where you just sort of like share posts and you feel like you've done enough. Like it makes it seem like everyone's more woke and like constantly like advocating for things, but there isn't actually like real change happening.
What kind of campaign then would you put together to, I don't know, I guess in their eyes run a real campaign?
I don't know yet. I just started the class. We'll see. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I am interested in learning about, to be honest, is seeing like how can maybe I integrate that change into my art, and is there a way for it to be, for me to feel like I'm making more of a change, even in like the eyes of these people, you know, like in the activism community. Like, does it, like, am I not doing enough? I don't know.
Right. I can't tell you honestly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. That's the whole point of this video.
Yeah.
Are we doing enough? The thing is that I do think still though, and I stand quite strongly behind the thought, the opinion that everyone has a role to play.
Yeah, I do too.
And that artists have a specific role.
But how much of an impact are you like responsible in making?
That's a really difficult question.
Yeah.
Because how can you measure that?
Yeah.
You can't really.
Yeah, unless your art is being used directly for a campaign.
And if it was, then that's still great.
Yeah, and if it isn't.
Okay, let me make this argument.
Okay.
Have you experienced a time where you've seen a really sick piece of graphic art of either really empowering people or has a really empowering quote or is exposing a really important issue, and because of the art it caught your eye and it made you click on it in the first place? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah,
exactly. So that's a huge part of an artist's role, and I think it is extremely important, far more important than people think.
Yeah.
Or that are giving artists credit for.
Yeah.
And the reason that I think that is because if you have a 5-page, 10-page, 30-page document of reasons why, in detail, a certain issue is important or why a certain movement is important, and you see that and you're like, wow, that looks like a lot. Not going to read it. But if you can say all of those words in one piece of art and you can place it and you can create it in a way that when someone else sees it, it clicks instantly and they know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like think
that's
about
powerful.
It. Yeah. Like the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the way that they're arranged in that like colorful arrangement, and it looks like a, what are the science table of elements?
The periodic table.
Periodic table. It looks like that. And it's like, it's laid out in an artistic way, and they make it appealing, and they've put it into like campaigns, and it's in museums. Like it is the most well marketed thing ever.
And
so
think
that
about
includes
that. If it was just like a document with like bullet points and stuff, nobody would read it.
Exactly. And that's their whole point, is they need public opinion to be shifted, and they realize that that needs to be done through art and through marketing and through social media and through like blasting it through so many channels so that you can't ignore this message. And I think that a lot of people do have important roles to play in that. And I think there are definitely some people who disagree and like frown upon anything that isn't like physical act of like organizing and, you know, it's like raising money and like on the ground constantly. But it's like some people that isn't their calling, you know, like I'm not good at things like that, but what I am good at is making art.
Or whether if it's like if your art is graphic art, you can make really powerful pieces of art that display a very strong message that people understand instantly. Like that, in my opinion, is more powerful than a document with that.
Yeah. But the people who wrote the document are so important as well.
So important because they're the ones that wrote it, but you are essentially the translator.
Yeah, you're decoding the message and then spreading it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I see it now.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm like, I half see it now. You know?
Right.
It's still something in my mind that lingers. Like, it's definitely a problem that I have.
No, I totally understand because, maybe I shouldn't say I see it now. I also have see it now because it is easy to say, but all at the same time, difficult to actually apply to yourself.
Yeah, totally. Because there's so much negative self-talk that's like currently happening that makes you feel like you need to do everything, and so much anxiety that it's like, I even had like the same kind of notion about the podcast too. It's like, are we doing enough on the podcast? Like, what's the point of me being here and talking right now? Like, do I have a message? Am I creating change? Like, who am I to have this microphone in front of my face, you know? But at the same time, then my roommate, we had a really nice conversation as well. And I didn't know that he even watched the podcast, but he was like, I really liked watching it because it just made me smile. you know, and like you guys do hit on important things as well, but like it changed my mood and it made me feel better. You know, and it's like sometimes like that's enough too. Like everything you do doesn't have to be social change as well.
Right.
You know, like because some things can just be for fun.
And honestly, I think part of social change is also to sometimes just make someone smile or make someone laugh or make them feel silly or in some way, shape or form, make them kind of escape reality for a second because that helps you recharge.
Yeah. It is important. And like so many of us spend so much time engaging and enjoying consuming people's art through streaming TV, streaming movies, scrolling on Instagram. We're consuming this art, but at the same time not really appreciating artists. Yeah. You know, and not appreciating the work that goes into these different pieces of like this huge pie that makes social change.
Yeah, there's so many pieces of the puzzle. So I think if anything, that should be what we end on and the main message of today is that there's many different forms of social change and sometimes just to make someone smile is enough too.
Yeah, and if I learn anything in this class, keep you posted.
Yeah, and don't undermine your role in this world.
Even if you're not an artist, you could be doing anything else, but what you do is important.
Yeah. You can be an accountant. I'm an accountant. I'm an accountant.
Where do you work?
I'm an accountant.
In a place where accountants work. So everyone is needed in society. So that's it for today. Thank you for stopping by. That sounded so dorky. Can you finish? Thanks for stopping by. I'll tell my mom you said hi.
That's all for today, folks. So thank you guys so much. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You're talking to my microphone.
Oh. Anyways, you know what to do. Do hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening on YouTube or the podcast app. And if you are on YouTube, also hit that like button if you want to see more videos like this. Yeah. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's time for us to go. So we will see you in the next pod. Peace.